Well, good evening, everybody. It's the Cryptid Huntress. I'm Jessica Jones. Happy Saturday, y'all. We have a fantastic show tonight. We have somebody who's brand new to the channel over here. We have Chris Holm in the studio. I had the pleasure of hanging out with Chris in Reno at the Spaced Out Radio fan party this past year. And boy, we've got a lot of interesting things to talk about tonight. So I am so humbled and grateful that all of you guys are spending your Saturday night with me here on the channel. It's the Cryptid Hunters channel. Okay, so yeah, you guys buckle up. We're going to be talking about some of Chris's encounters that he's had, and a whole lot of other stuff too. Okay, because Chris is an artist, a fantastic artist, y'all, and he does a lot of cryptid art. We're gonna look into some of that today, and I'm gonna ask him. He may have had an inspiration on one of my favorite pieces that he has came from an Art Bell show. Okay, and it might be one that I've remote viewed, having to do with a tumor cell in Mel's hole. So we're gonna talk about that later this evening. If you guys would like to follow along with all of my shows, please go to my website. That's thecryptidhuntress.com. You'll find all of my shows there, including my shows at Spaced Out Radio. Those are all listed there. And all the events that I'm going to be at and that I've done, all the events that I've been at lately, and all of my links to all my social media sites are there. Also, if you'd like to support my work, I have a Patreon. That's the Cryptid Huntress on Patreon. And I have a shop over on Etsy. That's War Woman Goods. So thank you guys so much for all of your support. And also, if you'd like to become a member of my YouTube channel, we have the Hunt Club. All you got to do is hit that join button on the page, the homepage of my YouTube channel, and you can become a member of the Hunt Club too. And I put exclusive content out over there. We have a really good time at the Hunt Club. Okay, y'all. Well, let's get to our show tonight because we have a whole list of stuff we're going to talk about, and it's not just his encounters, okay? Because Chris is really into the cryptids, into giants, and especially Dogman, Bigfoot, and maybe even some spider creatures. I don't know. We're gonna go deep on this one tonight. Okay, so let me get Chris introduced to you guys. Okay, Chris is the host and producer of Conspire a Theory podcast, a paranormal fandom hot topic comedy show that has raunchy humor and skeptical insight. Short and sweet, y'all. Please help me welcome to the show my buddy Chris Holm. Hey, Chris.
Hey, how's it going? Good to meet you, and good to meet your audience. It's great to be here. I've been wanting to talk to you for quite some time. I know that we hang out at the SOR meetups. We hang up there, and it's a lot of fun. We hardly ever have a chance to just sit together one-on-one and chit-chat, but hopefully we'll be burning the midnight oil, so to speak.
Oh, absolutely. I had a fantastic time. We did. You're a really good friend to Spaced Out Radio, and I know you've been on Dave's show, but you're part of the Spaced Out Radio family, man. Because we're all a big family over there.
It's good and it's fun. A lot of interesting people there.
Is that you? Oh, what is?
I guess she's running into some technical issues. Well, I guess we'll take care of that. I guess I'll go ahead and talk just a little bit about my show. It's Conspire a Theory, mostly paranormal stuff. Every now and then I'll talk to authors and researchers and all this stuff and experiencers every now and then. And that's just a lot of fun that I like to do on my show. Check your mic. Coming in bits and pieces.
Yes. Okay. Here, actually, this is not good. Let me hold on. I'll be right back. I gotta take 1 moment. Chris, I am so sorry.
All right, no problem. I guess I'll go ahead and keep it going from here. I'll talk a little bit about my show, and then I'll lead into my sleep paralysis experiences. Oh, here she goes again. Let's see if this works.
Yes, I am so sorry. Yes, that is so odd when you have an extra phone that's on like your Spotify account, let's just say, like it can somehow hijack my phone. I'm on my phone tonight, so I just got hijacked, but I'm back. Technical difficulties, and it's called a glitch in the matrix is what I like to call those. But anyways, I'm sorry, Chris. I'm so sorry.
No problem.
Yeah,
we got it going.
I was like, where's that music coming from? Wow. Okay, so let's get back to this. I'm so sorry. Okay, so we met at Space Out Radio. I was saying that we are a big old family over there, and I actually just talked to Dave Scott just a few minutes before we started the show tonight. So shout out to him. And I was when I was going through some of your artwork, I actually saw some art with Dave in it. So I just want to give Dave a big old shout out tonight. Okay. Before we start talking, but I am super intrigued by some of your encounters, Chris. Okay. Something got you into all this paranormal stuff, right?
Yeah, I guess my first initial encounter that I guess I could say came up on that I can recall that is the most prominent that I could share is the sleep paralysis event that I had one time. And it really shook me up because I've been like a longtime student of the paranormal. I've been a fan and avid listener of Art Bell for decades. I've been listening to him since she's saying something and no, there's no volume coming in.
No, I was telling my son something. Sorry.
Okay.
I meant to mute that.
No problem.
Yeah, go ahead.
We'll keep it going. I'll keep going.
I'm just fussing at my kid while you're talking. Sorry. Just kidding.
No problem. So then I was listening to, so I was well aware of what sleep paralysis was, and it's sort of, it's sort of, it's movement in the paranormal that a lot of people like to use. And I believe that my experience was sleep paralysis, although there is some sort of leadway that some people might think that there might be more to that. But first, let's start off. I was in between working a night shift. I was working like either 10 or 12-hour shift. And then I was sitting in my bed. It was daytime. And then I'm just lying on my bed, and then I feel the sleep paralysis event come over me. It's sort of like, it feels like my veins had liquid fear poured all through them, and it was very creepy. And it just weighed me down. I felt my body just completely weighed down. And on the other hand, though, and as this is happening, I'm completely stuck, and of course, as usual, only your eyes can move and stuff like that. So then I look into the corner, and then my door starts to open. And then as that is happening, in walks these two entities. They're clearly human, but they're misshapen in certain ways. One is very tall and rotund. He's got like a tight black shirt that's so tight that his belly is hanging out. And he's got like these sort of tight bicycle pants on. And he's walking in. And then there's another one, which I think was sort of the leader of the group, even though there was just two of them. He was sort of the leader. He was sort of a hunched over man with a bushly mustache. He had like a trucker cap on. They both had trucker caps. And he had this overshirt that was sort of a plaid overshirt, which seems to be a sort of, moniker among the paranormal, is that if anything's going to wear any kind of a shirt, it's going to be a plaid shirt. That's just their style. But this one, it wasn't red and black. It was green and blue. And he was a sort of hunched over, broken over looking man. And he was giving me this stern look, look in my eyes. And as they did that, they were going through my stuff. They were opening closets and going through my drawers and all of this stuff and just poking through everything, just shuffling through all of my stuff. And every now and then, the shorter one would look at me very sternly to make sure that I wasn't moving. And then what happened that was strange on top of that, even though there was already strange enough stuff happening, they started to open closet space into rooms and walls that didn't have closets in them, which was weird. Like I have a walk-in closet, right? And that's just the regular door into the walk-in closet. Well, one of them opened up like a sliding door closet into one of the walls. And at the time, I had no sliding door closet. And inside that closet was just more closet refuge, like coats and crap all over the bottom, shoe cases, whatever. And it's just going through them, and then as I started to gain control, I start to, I can feel myself start to get control. And as that, it's like they become aware of that and they start to saunter out. They even close the door behind them. And I get up and of course I'm physically shook. I'm just, on edge. And then I get up, I go through my apartment. I look, everywhere. There is no way. I had 2 layers of security, deadbolts and electronic security. And there was no way that they could have gotten out without triggering or dismantling or messing with either layer of security. So they just, as far as I could tell, just disappeared into fat air. And it shook me. But the thing is, I kind of knew what sleep paralysis was. So I sort of wrote it off as simply that, but it was still, even though you quote unquote know better, the experience is still unsettling. So I can see why people, assign this profoundness to it. And they definitely want to know more of what happened, what is going on. And I can definitely see people, seeing the answers for that, seeking them out.
Yeah. Oh, I have some questions for you. Okay, so you have a very vivid memory of what you were looking at and what was there, and that's got to be pretty terrifying. I've actually been in the same predicament where I have woken up at least 2 different times where I had some people in my room. Okay, people in my room. I'm going to say 2 times that I think they were extraterrestrials. Okay, but I can't say positively they were, but I think they were. I've had other times where I've woken up and I felt a presence in my room, and I knew there was somebody in there. But, I've had things floating over my bed. I've had faces looking down at me from my bed, which I just assumed were ghosts. I've had ghosts in my room. I've had full-bodied apparitions of solid humans in my room. A lot of strange things. But I usually fall asleep right after I realize what I'm looking at. But see, in your case, you didn't fall asleep. You were able to stay awake, right? Until they were gone.
Well, I was sort of, I don't know. I guess I was taking a nap, but I wasn't long-term sleeping. And also this happened during the daylight hours. So I was probably going to get up anyways, or as far as I know, I just popped right up and went around and looked, I was able to immediately, get up and circle my surroundings to like actively seek out what was happening. And I think that's sort of the difference, because when we do it, when it happens to us, when we're sleeping, we're sort of like in the middle of sleeping. And I think, I don't know, whatever the experience, but has the means of just turning us off, and it just shuts us off like a light. And some of us, I can understand how some are like, well, I'm probably so exhausted from nighttime sleeping, or I've just gotten in and out of whatever REM sleep that it sort of, you saunter back into that zone, and it sort of, that takes you out in some instances, as I can tell.
Yeah. And you also are saying, I'm sorry, my audio is a little crackly tonight for some reason. I was just noticing that. You were saying that it looked as though they were in a different dimension, like they were opening closet doors that didn't exist. Okay, have you ever thought, okay, so this question was posed to me by Tony Merkel. I was on his show, The Confessionals podcast, a couple weeks ago. And I was talking about my experience waking up at night and there being ETs in my room. And he said, well, and I remember thinking, and I remember that my dogs wouldn't wake up. And my dogs weren't awake. My son didn't wake up. My son was in the bed right beside me. And I was the only one awake. And he said, well, what if it was, you were in you were in the astral when that happened. You were in their dimension. Okay, like you were still there, but you were in the 3D too, but you were also, it was like your astral body basically. And that's why everyone else in your environment wasn't experiencing it. It was just you. Do you think that could have been kind of your case too in this instance?
Yeah, when I bring this up with other people, other researchers and people who are sort of, more into it, like yourself, have brought up the account that, could this have been an abduction encounter where it was simply dressed over with these sort of, costumes, And like, did they come into my room? Did they spill over their essence or whatever it was into the room, so that way they could interact with more than just the room itself? I've had like a lot of those, hypotheses, brought up, and I do, find them quite interesting, and I can understand they're very plausible. As far as anything like definitive anything more that I could get out of it, I just can't get that much more out of it, other than it was just a strange thing that happened. And then, I just got up from it and was able to sort of seek it out. Now, I felt the presence of what I think are these beings, like maybe once or twice afterwards, in similar sleep paralysis s type of encounters. But I think that was mostly due to, just sleep paralysis reactivating itself. And then I simply just, would, will myself out of the experience and then just turn over and go back to sleep type of thing. So when it comes to the sleep paralysis initial experience it myself, I've had like a lot of experience with it, and I've dealt with it. Like, I'm not someone who chronically suffers from it. It's more of a thing where I've done enough of my own research and have practiced my own techniques to will myself out of it. And usually as soon as I get that done, I just go back and sleep on my side properly or whatever. And then I haven't had any opportunity for these interlopers to return.
So they haven't been back. That's a good thing. But you've had two experiences, right? Where it came to the invaders.
Yeah, one I saw them, and then another one I just felt presence, like presenteeism. Mm-hmm. And then that pretty much just summed it up. Okay. But it was, pretty profound for me that, it's a way for me to sort of relate to other people's encounters with what they call the awe factor or the Oz factor. And when these things happen, like a lot of us, we just get into the experience,
Yeah. Yeah. When I had one of my experiences where I woke up with a hooded figure standing by my bed who looked like the Grim Reaper, I fell asleep. I went back to sleep and I dreamed, speaking of the Oz factor, I fell asleep and I dreamt that I was in the Wizard of Oz. And I was actually dealing with I was hanging out with the Munchkins. Okay. And, so it was a strange experience for me, because I woke up thinking, man, that was a really weird experience. And I was trying to decide, like, had I really experienced that, or was that a dream? All of it just a dream? But you never actually really went back to sleep, so you knew that wasn't a dream. I find it interesting that they were wearing strange clothes. Like the clothing was like too small for their bodies, and it was just frumpy looking.
I've actually worked up an illustration if you want to see.
Sure.
Let me go ahead and bring it up.
Okay.
And I will.
Yeah. We'll share the screen. I've seen your cartoon that says that most people's sleep demons look like shadowy figures, but then your sleep demons look like those two guys. And so it's actually kind of funny. It's actually kind of funny. Mm-hmm. But do you call these sleep demons?
I refer to them as SPDs, sleep paralysis demons. Mm-hmm. These guys, I'm torn between either quantum rednecks or cosmic white trash, because that's what they appear to be for me. And it's totally comical, and I get it, and I can laugh at it now, but in the moment I just felt this overwhelming sense of terror. But I felt like the terror was artificially pumped into my veins, so to speak, in addition to the weight that was keeping me complacent, so that way then the initial experience could then happen. And apparently these entities, they were searching for something. I don't know what exactly they were searching for, but they were very clearly looking for something. And I don't know. Some people suspect that maybe they were simply farming the fear element out of me. And if that's the case, then I guess they had their fill, and And then once the influence was starting to wear off, they then decided, well, let's get out of here. We filled up our tanks. Let's go.
Chris, I have to say, this is the first time I've ever seen an illustration or heard anyone say that what they encountered while they were in a sleep paralysis looked like that. Because usually it's kind of scary. And and this looked like two of my next door neighbors or something, you know.
I mean, I get it. One had a sort of, rather vacant expression on his face, and the other one had like a rather stern, sort of mean mug expression on his face as well. And everybody else, they have like the Hat Man, the shadow people, or some other form of demonic presence, and I simply did not have that. And I on one hand, I sort of felt kind of, I don't know, I don't think I should feel shortchanged, because from what I've heard of the other experiences, all the other guys are really scary. But these guys, for me, they were sort of scary in their own right. And maybe that was simply whatever the interlopers are, they sort of do this thing of I don't know what to call it. Where they can wrap themselves up in either the popular culture of what they're supposed to be, sort of like how back in the 50s and 60s, all the aliens wore, silver suits and bubble helmets. And now they're all these icky, gooey grays. And it's I sort of feel like a level of romanticism has been lost into that. But in the sense, it's this sort of, I guess they were sort of like wrapping themselves into what they would figure I would be afraid of, which is, poor white trash and rednecks and stuff like that. Because I don't know. I'm always afraid that I'm going to wake up one day and then I'm going to be infected with, with white trashism. And then I'm going to walk out and I'm going to see a working television on top of my non-working television. And I'm like, oh no, I'm a redneck now. That's my greatest fear.
Well, I do know that they work on your darkest fears sometimes, for sure. They manifest. And like Brown Dwarf says, they're working the consciousness. Okay, they are. And I have seen shadow beings. I've never seen the Hat Man, but I've seen shadow people. And they're pretty scary. I don't think it gets much scarier than a shadow person out there.
Yeah,
but I don't know what's scarier though. I don't know.
Well, they're bringing
this. With those.
Yeah, they're bringing, the thing is, it's not just them, but they tend to bring this atmosphere with them, a sort of like an aura of fear that envelops them and then influences us. And I think that's sort of what that is.
Yeah, it's almost like Monsters Inc. Okay, Monsters Inc. That movie where they scare the children and they get all that loosh, we call it. It's all that loosh or whatever. Those are your monsters from Monsters Inc. right there. Unfortunately.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I can understand that, because we do whatever it is. I don't know what resource we can provide these other world interlopers. What do we give them that they cannot get in plentiful, amounts anywhere else? We like to say in our, sci-fi lore that they come over and they want to suck up all our water or take all of our gold. But the thing is, you can find plentiful water on comets in the cosmos and stuff like that. And you can get gold and like minerals in other places, like other, heavenly bodies that provided plentiful without pesky humans hanging around. So it's like the only thing that's viable in our planet to farm is us. And who knows what they're sucking up? I mean, maybe they are sucking up the fear. Maybe they get off on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, but you said they were looking for something. What do you think they were looking for?
I don't know, but whatever it is, they were looking for it in the refuge of my drawers and closet space. So and the only thing that I keep in there is like, pens and notepads and little collectible figures from cereal boxes and stuff like that. So it's like whatever important thing, I don't know. Maybe they were looking for the ultimate Pokemon card. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. Okay, well, you've had other experiences too, not just these. You call them the invaders. I really think that's a cool term because they're not only invading our dreams, they're invading our houses. Okay, and they're invading our consciousness. But you've had other experiences too, and I was reading on some of your different experiences. You've had a lot of like ghostly experiences and paranormal stuff that's happened, even poltergeist experiences. So tell me a little bit about some of those experiences.
Mm. Yeah, there's quite a few. You might want to refresh me on which ones it is because they kind of get all clattered in my head.
Oh
I
yeah,
know I sent
well,
you a PDF with them.
you
I don't
did.
have it in front of me at the moment.
You did. Well, you were talking about in one of the old. I think you lived in a haunted apartment at some point. And so I was wondering. I mean, I've lived in haunted houses, haunted apartments myself, and I know that you've heard your mother's voice several times
Oh
throughout
yeah,
the
yeah,
years.
yeah.
Yeah.
Those are two separate things. I'll touch on both of those. The first
Okay.
one was sort of growing up in my teen years. I grew up and I would hear like voices, like not like voices like schizophrenia or anything of that nature. It was more of like I would hear a summoning call. That's just the best way I could describe it. Like when you as a mother you need something, so you summon your son to do something for you, whether it's to you need to pick something off the top shelf, or a door is really giving you a lot of trouble and you need your son to give it that oomph to pop it open or whatever it is. It was that. It was a summoning call, and I'm in the middle. I'm drawing stuff and working on stuff. I'm mostly, knowing me at the time, I was probably drawing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So I get up and then I go to my mom and she's in the living room, and I'm like, what? And, and she's like, I didn't call you. And any time in my household when anything paranormal happened, my mother would write it off as that's your angels talking to you type of thing. She would always use the angels to cover it up. And then one time my mother was in the backyard. She was gardening, and we had those sliding doors that go into the back. When you open them up, they make this bunch of noise. And it's rather obnoxious how much noise they make. So you got to like keep spraying them with WD-40. But the point is that I hear the summoning call, and then I get up and I can't find her. So then I open up the sliding glass door, and then she didn't summon me. So I'm like, okay, whatever. And then I shut the door. And then it isn't until years later that I realized, wait a minute, how would she have, if she was playing a trick on me, how would she have done it? Because there was no means for her to go into the house, definitely not through the door in any ways, because if she had opened it, I would have heard the loud screech, the metal. But I never heard that. So there was really no means that I can gather that she was able to pull off the summoning call that for me to hear it, reasonably. So that's sort of one of those things. It's like, what the heck just happened type of thing. And I've always been dumbfounded by that. And I don't know what to make of it. I think being that I was a young teenager at the time, there's this phenomenon referred to as poltergeist agent, where a lot of the poltergeist activities, it's often centered around a young person going through puberty and stuff like that. So maybe I had a mild case of poltergeist agentism. I don't know. And it only manifested itself in summoning calls. Because since then, as far as I know, I've never seen ghosts or anything of that nature. And then as far as the haunted apartment stuff, well, that's when I did see a ghost. It was sort of, as you move into a new space, you sort of feel like it doesn't feel home exactly in the first few months. And as I was slowly, coming into it, I would feel this presence, walk up and down the hall. And then when I would catch a glimpse out of the corner of my eye, and it was like a young female in a dress with her hair like all out like snakes and stuff like this, just all over the place. And it was this sort of shadow. and I sort of would catch glimpses of that going back and forth. But it really didn't bother me all that much because, there was really nothing it would just walk up and down the hall and that's it. And then I think this is when I eventually scared it off. Officially, I was talking about it on Facebook, clickety clack. And someone was talking about ghosts, and I'm like, oh yeah, I have a ghost in my hallway. And then as soon as I clicked enter and had the post, I suddenly felt this ethereal weight lift up off my shoulders. And I was like, wait a minute, whatever presenteeism was now gone. And then I'm like, oh crap, the ghost is gone. And then the reply was like, you have a ghost in your house, her, type of joke. And then I'm like, clickety clack, a-hole, you scared her off. How dare you, you idiot? And I was, of course, admonishing the person for scaring off my ghost, even though I probably did it by acknowledging it. But the point is that it was a Facebook post that scared off this ghost. As far as I could gather.
Well, most people are not real big fans of having a ghost in their house. Okay. And so I'm not either. I try to banish them all away. I've lived in too many haunted houses, seen too many ghosts, and I put a bubble of protection around my environment every time I'm about to go to bed, and all day, every day. I'm trying to keep the ghost away for sure. And I'm just out there I keep the ghost away, but I go chase Bigfoot and Dogman in the woods. Mm-hmm. Okay. I try to keep it all outdoors. But Daniela has an interesting point here. Says, heard on Art Bell that sleeping on your side helps you to not have sleep paralysis. It usually happens when you sleep face up. That's the cause for me. Okay, and so that's a good point. I remember being on my back when I had sleep paralysis, and I woke up to ETs in my bedroom. Okay, I was on my back. I actually drew a picture of it. I'm on my back, so that would make total sense. So if you can make a conscientious decision to sleep on your side, even when you're sleeping, you lay on your back. It's usually when you're on your back. So just take note of that, everybody. Okay, it's when you're on your back. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Chris,
so anything else?
Yeah, no, I actually was thinking about let's talk about some of these spiders that you wanted to talk about, these big spiders, because we talk about these large spiders like we're in Antarctica. Okay, and these things have come up quite a few times on my shows. Giant spiders and spider animal hybrids as well. So yeah, let's get into that.
Yeah, the thing when it comes to like spiders of that nature and stuff, what I often, this is probably like the only time that I've experienced like what do you call it? Trauma trigger was when I was working on the compendium for our Keith Andrews's book. He has a compendium coming up, and he's doing an illustrative edition. And of course, I was able to get myself in there as one of the illustrators for his book, and I did like 60 to 70 illustrations for his first volume. And one of the creatures were these creatures called the Thorians, which are spider human hybrids. And I was like, and of course I have to draw these things, and I have to like look up real world sources and stuff like this. And I suffer from arachnophobia. So working on this was really difficult for me. I mean, I know nowadays we have like cute spiders and stuff like this, those cute little jumpy, fuzzy ones, but at the time that's not quite what I was working on. And when I hear these stories about the, Antarctic base, that they have like a sort of segmented off where these like 5-legged, arachnid type creatures tend to dwell, and there's like people say that there's like a photo of one off in the distance, and there's like a lot of conjecture about, in these underground bases that some people keep them farming, and of course they feed them little kids, even though they have the capacity to farm cattle and just throw a cow in there. For some reason they decide to go above and beyond, like, oh, let's feed them some kids, like let's make our job infinitely harder. and I don't know. There's probably a good reason for that. But the point is that the form of these creatures is like it's so intriguing and you know and just amazing. I got the thing in the screen share right now. I got one logged up. If you want to pop it up. Yeah, there we go. This is the initial sketch. It's not the final, but it's one of the initial sketches that I was working on for Arkeith's book. And it's sort of where it has a sort of segmented, body, and its forearms are sort of like the phalanges that the spiders would have, and the other legs, of course, connected to the thorax. And he refers to them, I believe, as thorians. And this was one that was like a really difficult for me to do, because then I start, just getting chills up my spine because I'm just so deathly afraid of spiders.
Well, Chris, I can tell you, I've had on the show. I had one person in particular, my good friend Daryl James. He was it's been part of the secret space program, and I like really bringing people on who have had these encounters at these deep underground military bases. And when I first met him, he said, Jessica, I want to tell you about some of my encounters, and they involve a giant animal human spider named Max. And he said that he had to deal with Max down in these underground bases, saying that they did feed humans to the spider human hybrid, and Max had legs like a spider and a torso like a man, and he had a human head, but with like 4 eyes on each side of his head going up his head, much like your picture right there. Much like your picture, but with human skin.
In fantasy, in D&D and stuff, they refer to them as driders, but as far as that, I remember catching that episode, and that's what I felt so intrigued by. I definitely had to talk to you about that, because I definitely did. I know that episode. I'm talking, and if I can ever, talk to that person, I would definitely like to talk to them and get their story, because it's like the fighting giant spider-like entities has sort of been it's sort of been very common. Everyone, even the secret space program people, they're supposed to be like a race of spiders on Mars or something like that people are constantly brought into the sort of arena like combat, and they do like research and development, training. At least that's what the story is. And I don't know what the truth is of that. I definitely find it intriguing. I definitely would like to hear more about it. And I think it's totally cool. Because you look at movies like, what is it, Starship Troopers, and they fight these monster arachnid type creatures and stuff with this, and it's sort of like it's sort of a fun thing to look into, and I'm definitely heavily entertained by it.
Oh yeah, well these spider human hybrids they're a nightmare for people who have encountered them. And, I've heard stories out of Antarctica where they have sent special forces troops down there to fight cryptids when they're usually giant spiders like that. Okay. Just huge spiders. I hope I don't come across any. Okay. There's something that I've seen in your artwork where you actually talk about, you've drawn Bigfoot spider crawling before, and I thought that was really cool. You have your own interpretation of what you think Bigfoot looks like in a spider crawl, but I've seen videos of what I think are Bigfoots doing spider crawls, and it looks unnatural.
Yeah, I've heard it resembling mostly, like, I would say, like a cuttlefish, where it's sort of this sort of moving type of thing of this nature. But for comic effect, let me bring that up. For comic effect, I simply brought up that all right, here we go. I simply brought up that if the spider were to spider crawl, how would I depict it? And I depict it like how a spider would spider crawl, which is, clickety clack, it scuttles about. And in that, I put I illustrated the Bigfoot in that position with his arms and legs up like we would see spider legs, and as if he were to scuttle across, and how, terrifying that would be.
There's actually a video that you can find, and there's a dog. It looks like a Bigfoot spider crawling through the street, and there are dogs that are barking at it. And it's really hard to understand what you're looking at until you make the realization. And if you're in the know about Bigfoot doing the spider crawls, it's terrifying. Actually, it's quite terrifying. But that's a cool illustration. I love how you bring a lot of humor into what you're doing here. That's how I convey the dark stuff that we talk about here, and all the scary things that I encounter out in the woods and in the field. It's with humor. Okay, it's with humor, because it's almost like it's wild that this stuff even exists. Okay, it really is. And so that's why I can appreciate all your artwork with that. And with that, let's talk about Dogman. You have some fantastic Dogman art, and you're really much into the Dogman phenomenon now. Have you ever had an encounter with a Dogman?
No, not that I could recall. I don't believe I ever have. But the thing is when it comes to the Dogman phenomena, okay, I put something in there for the presentation. There we go. Let me just put up a sort of Dogman-like entity. Now, this is sort of in the Archie's book of a Dogman-like entity. It's not exactly per se a Dogman as we know it, but it's very Dogman-ish. And there are some species of creatures that we've heard stories of where these sort of Dogman-like creatures are aliens, and we've even heard somewhere they're on spaceships, and that's really interesting. Where we have, it seems like everybody's on the UFOs now. We have people with, they see Bigfoot, they see aliens, they see relatives of past relatives, ghosts, they see military people, or what they assume are military people in uniform. And it's just the thing is that when it comes to the Dogman stuff, as far as what we know of Dogman, is just our initial encounters with them. And we always experience them as these aggressive, 11 out of 10, aggressive monsters that are just, we're totally invading their space, and they're ticked off, and they're madder than mad. And to them, they either see us only as either prey or inconveniences. And I have to ask the question, like, what happens like 1,000 years from now? Let's say we actually domesticate Dogman. Like, what is that going to look like? Are we gonna like breed them, like do selective breeding like we do with our dogs now? Or is there going to be a potential for like a Chihuahua man or a pug man in the years to come? I mean, are you going to like get like a pizza delivery from a pug man, and then he's going to give you your pizza, and then as soon as you start eating it, he just starts staring at you with the big eyes, like he wants a slice? And then you have to tell him no. You have to tell him no, because that's right. Poison for you.
No, I don't think so. I do want a Dogman security team, though, for sure. Like, that would be something fun to have. And we talk about, we joke about it here, but I've had people that have come on the show that are real whistleblowers that say that this really does occur, that there are Dogman breeding programs, and they are trained to be used during wartime and things like that. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I've heard one of the stories floating around of, like, I think it was a Middle East, during one of the Middle East incursions, that there was like a story of soldiers looking over a hill and then seeing a team of 2 Dogmans in armor, which I find intriguing, taking out whatever their enemy combatants are. And then, as soon as they get a whiff, they pop into a portal and just skedaddle off. And I find that rather, intriguing. I definitely want to learn more about that. And I know that there's so much out there about this type of stuff. And then that leads into like the greater stuff of, what happens in all these war-torn areas that we just don't know about, like the giant of Kandahar and all that stuff with this. And it's just, it's a huge smorgasbord of interesting stuff. And it's always somewhere off that is like either extremely hostile for us to investigate and talk about, especially with stuff like the jinn of the Eastern cultures and stuff of that nature. and other type of creatures, and it's rather intriguing, and of course with the Japanese, they have the yokai, and of course even them, they have a spider woman that is very prominent in their culture, well, that they make cartoons and fun stuff about.
Oh, wow. Well, it seems to line up with a lot of what I hear. All the different cultures have have some of the similar cryptids and the same stories as we have here in the United States. We hear about Dogman all over the world. I've had Jody Cook from the North American Dogman Project on my show before, and he's taken reports of, I'm having some technical difficulties here. He's taken some reports of Dogmen being seen coming out of UFOs before, and also being used in wars as well, especially in the Middle East.
Yeah, I definitely want to look into that and work on that, and definitely do an illustration based on this, but I need to get some research and figure it out before I pursue that anymore. So I definitely have to reach out to all these people, and it's very difficult at times because, so many of these people have so much going on, and, and I'm just sitting at the bottom of their inbox, just waiting for them to get around to it. So I'm definitely on the lookout for that. If anyone knows anything more about that, be sure, let me know. I'm open to hearing people out. It's something that I definitely find rather intriguing, and I just cannot get enough of it.
Oh, awesome. Well, yeah. Well, it's really cool that you actually have taken people's encounters from investigations, and you give it life in another way by making it into artwork. Okay, like I was seeing one of your pictures of, it looks like somebody had woken up at night and there was an alien, some kind of ET clinging into the walls in the corner of somebody's room, and that was from a sketch from an investigation that somebody did, and you were able to like make it into like, it looks like a comic book or something, like a cartoon. Like it gives it an interesting life, is all I'm saying. Super cool.
Yeah, sure. I got that illustration in the bottom, so we'll go ahead and pop it up and talk about it.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
This came from an investigator sketch. On the right is the investigator sketch. It was his mother had detailed him a story of seeing a green gray-like man propped up in the corner of one of the hallways. He was just sprawled up there like Spider-Man. That's how she described it. And then when she, saw that, she of course had an initial reaction, was of course is a jump scare. I've seen of that. And then when she reacted, it blinked out of existence. Now, she had described it initially as sort of a gray man. He was, stuck in the corner like Spider-Man. He had one hand on the roof, one on, the other opposing wall, and then his feet were sprawled up, spread out as well. He was just, stuck up there doing whatever. And he had, and this was interesting, was surrounded by sparkles, like if you ever were playing football and you got hit, you see ribbons of light. That's how I could best describe them, as sort of like silver sparkles and stuff, like seeing stars if you ever get knocked out or something of that nature. That's what she had seen surrounding this entity. So he very well, I don't know what to make of it. Either he was probably in some sort of interdimensional transit of something of that nature, and then getting caught, before he finally blipped out for good. And it's just, it's sort of like a one of the mysteries that we see, because like something like that similarly happened to my mother, where she was walking down the hallway one time, and this was when we were little kids, when we were like, me and my siblings were like 4 years old and stuff of that nature, where we were in our bedrooms and we were sleeping, and then she walked down the hallway and she saw what looked like a being of light, and from the knees down it faded out, but the rest of it up was sort of like, and it was like a being enveloped in light, like it was made of light, and it was looking into our bedroom, into the kids' bedroom. And then when my mom, again, jump scared, it blinked out of existence. So there's something where we're sort of like in this like non-assuming, state. I guess it's when we sleep, I guess we're like, doing something. We're like, you know, floating through dimensions or whatever. And when some of us just by pure chance just happen to happen on these, these interdimensional, we can best describe it till we find a better word, interdimensional interlopers, that they just happen to be, skedaddling through, going through the visages of our reality. And it's rather interesting. And I don't know what to make of it. All I can do is, just like yourself, just hear about it, take it down, and like, okay, just put it in the catalog for right now.
Oh yeah, Chris. When I was about, I'm not going to say how old I was. It was a few years ago. I woke up at night and I had those exact same sparkles in the corner of my bedroom. Now, I always associated that. Now that I've been a remote viewer for a while, I think that was me remote viewing myself at night. There could have very well been an entity there, but I figured it was me. Yeah, I think that it was me remote viewing myself, but it was sparkly lights, exactly like what you have put on this artwork here.
Yeah, and in that instance, relating back to my mother's encounter, she very well could have been remote viewing herself, or perhaps it was a sliver in time where she was looking in on her kids. What do we make of it? I mean, I like, romantically, I like to think that's what it was, that she was catching a sliver of herself in angelic form, just checking in on the kids. And that gives me comfort, but who knows?
Now, your mom passed away when you were young, right? So your mom's no longer with us.
She passed when in maybe 6 or 7 years ago. She passed pretty much, I would have to say 2015.
Okay. I'm sorry to hear that.
And well, it was, oh yeah, she was definitely, we would go and she would tell me ghost stories and stuff like this. And I remember one time when at the family gathering, when we would all get together, all the women would get into the kitchen and they'd start telling ghost stories. And this was in the middle of the night, and they were talking about witches and stuff like this. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, inside one of the closets, a bunch of pots and pans just fell down and scared the bejesus out of everybody. And it's just, I mean, what do you do with that?
Yeah. Well, you had mentioned and the thing that you sent me over, you had mentioned that you had heard your mom calling you, and you had heard your name and your mom's voice. That was after your mom had passed over already, right?
No, that was when I was a child.
So she was still
when I was 15 years old, and she was still alive and active and stuff of that nature. The stuff with as far as as anything recently that I've had interactions with my mother, recently, they were mostly in dreams. And this is weird because we all have dream visitations. A lot of people talk about dream visitations. The thing is with me, however, when my mother visits me in my dreams, she sort of integrates with the dream. And that has led to many, rather questionable dreams. So one time I had this dream that I was at a toga party. I don't know why I would be there or what the context was, but that's where I was. I was wearing this toga, and everybody was wearing this toga. It was a frat party. Everybody's young, drinking. And in the background, my mother is at, one of those kiddie-sized pools. She's filling it with margarita mix for some reason. And it's just a party. Good. And she's just, back there in a lawn chair hanging out as I'm doing all this going about in the context of the dream. And I wake up and I feel really good about that. And it's just she's just passing through saying hello or whatever it is. And then there was one time where I actually did have, direct interaction with her, was where I had this dream. And again, in this one, the context of the dream was I was in a hotel, and there was a convention going. So of course it's crowded and busy, and everybody's, you have all these vendor tables and artisan tables. And then I walk up to one of them, and at one of the vendor tables is my mother. And she's working on crafts, arts and crafts, because that's what she does. She's an artisan. So she's working on the crafts, and then I realized, oh, that's my mom. And then this rush of emotion just pours over me, because I hadn't seen her in years, and I missed her so much. So I walk up to her, the side of a chair, I get on my knees, and I just wrap my arms around her, and I just hold her, and I just start crying wildly. I just start all this emotion just pours out of me, and I'm, and she just, she keeps working on her crafts, and she'll just pat me on the head, every now and then, just to acknowledge that she knows that I'm there. And as that is happening, it's sort of like this sort of I'm working these emotions out, and it's just all coming out of me, and it's fantastic, and it's just, because not everyone, I understand, gets to have that, but I consider myself very blessed that I have, even if it's just the subconscious, my subconscious ironing out details, who knows. But whatever it is, I take it as it comes, and I have my fun with it.
Oh yeah. I loved going to sleep at night. I love dreaming because I am constantly having conversations with people. I'm actually working out problems, even with people that don't like me in this 3D, and I don't like them either. Okay. So we work things out in the astral. And so it's just like a beautiful thing. It's like we are more than this physical body. Okay, we are, and so that's just the way it is. And there's more going on in the ethers than there is even going down here where we live. And so it's very comforting to go to sleep and be able to communicate with the people who have passed away already, and they're waiting for us on the other side. And it's beautiful. And also what's beautiful is Blanche LeBlanc. Thank you for that super sticker. You're beautiful. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. But that's a great thing. And yeah, and I've been visited by my loved ones that have passed away, like my brother. I've actually seen him show up in my bedroom once again. It's always in the bedroom, isn't it? But right after he passed away. So wow, very, very, very cool conversation tonight for sure that we've had. Now I wanted to also talk about, and I know we were going to talk about giants tonight too before we went. And I've been doing a lot of research on giants. We talk about giants a lot. I've remote viewed some giants, including the giant of Kandahar that you mentioned a while ago.
Before we do, can I ask you about your Bigfoot hunting? Because I think you're going to go Bigfoot hunting. Why would you go Bigfoot hunting? They'll see you coming. You're eye level with them.
Okay, so yes, I am much taller in person than people think. I know, I get that. When people meet me for the first time, I'm much taller than people imagine. Okay, I'm not 6 feet tall, except for with hills.
What do you think you're doing? They're going to see you coming. They're going to be, oh, there she is. Let's go.
Chris, you've been waiting to say that. I know you have. So silly. Yes, I do. They're way bigger than me, usually. The Bigfoots are way bigger. So, yeah. And what's interesting, too, is like a lot of the people in this field that do Bigfoot research, they're all very tall, especially the men. Most of the men on my team, not all of them, okay, but a lot of them are well over 6'3", 6'5", 6'6", or even taller. Tony Green's been on our show. He's like 6'6" or 6'7". So, tall guys. Trey Hudson's tall. Okay, he's on my team, and the head of my other team, they're all super tall. And it's just something when you go to Bigfoot conferences, everybody's tall.
Yeah, one of the things that I find interesting is the wood knocks. And some people are starting to speculate that maybe they're not actually knocking on wood, that's actually them, making popping noises with their mouths or lip smacking. And I know that with the woo side, there's sort of a speculation that could be, I'm guessing, dimensional popping, that's actually the pop of the dimension as they're coming in and out of it, which I don't know what to make of that. What do you want Bigfoot to be? If you were in charge of the ultimate solution, what if Bigfoot was discovered and you were right? What would you want Bigfoot to be? That is my question.
I mean, I don't want Bigfoot to be anything. I mean, I'm interested in discovering what they are for sure. But what I think they are is a flesh and bone type of a creature. They are a flesh and bone creature, but they're able to access Earth's natural portals and things like that. I think they can hop between dimensions somehow, just like we can. I mean, we're having a conversation tonight about potentially being awake in the ethers, okay, like in the astral realm, and being fully aware of ourselves in that astral. Now, I do remote viewing. I've been trained to get into the different sleep states and theta and being awake and being in between being awake and being asleep. And so that's like having one foot in this, one foot in the next, basically. And I've been told since I was a little kid that I've walked between two worlds. I live between two worlds constantly because I'm in between this world and that, and that's how Bigfoots are too. That's why I get along with Bigfoot so good, I guess.
All right.
Because we're supernatural too. You know, we're not. When people say Bigfoots are supernatural, I mean, so are humans. Okay, some of us can access it, and we pay attention to it more.
Yeah, I would love it if Bigfoot just turned out to be a big dumb ape. That would tickle me pink so much. If it's just, you know, it's just we catch him and he's just sitting there on his log picking his nose, you know, we get close to the camera and he just flicks a booger at it or something, you know, and he's just like absolutely dumb, like super duper dumb. And the only reason that we can't catch him is because we're looking too high. We're thinking, oh, they're so smart, and we're looking for the sort of smart thing. But then because he's super dumb, he's able to evade us, you know, and you know, when we're looking one way, he's just sitting there, you just stand still and we just go past him and all that stuff. But that's really what I want. But of course that the question that I have is that we tend to assign this sort of superpower to Bigfoot as if he probably doesn't have enough superpowers already, just by being a gigantic whatever he is that I think we're sort of doing ourselves a disservice by assigning this level that because we can't catch him or because he eludes us, he must be super smart. And I really don't know that that's how intelligence works in a way that you can, no matter how smart you are, that you can't evade, you know, natural selection of that nature. Like there was a scene in the movie RoboCop where the guy's filling up his gas and there's like a teller behind, you know, glass and he's working on his calculus homework. And then the guy says, it's like, what are you working on? And he shows him and it's advanced calculus. And he says, oh, you're pretty smart. Do you think you can outsmart a bullet? And then he taunts him. And then RoboCop comes and kicks his ass and all that stuff. But the point is that I don't think I don't believe that Bigfoot can outsmart a bullet. And eventually, you know, we should have, you know, seen something on, be it a trail cam or something, because we have seen, you know, suspect stuff on weather cams, on traffic cams. We've seen stuff like that is very suspect, that we hypothesize very well could be Bigfoot. On the other hand, I think given our encroachment onto woodland territories, one should have at this point been hit by a car or something, or you know, a tree could have fell on him or whatever. That this elusive, never finding a body within, you know, 80 so years of looking, I just have a hard time buying that. So as far as it being a natural creature, you know, I'm not saying that. Well, I kind of am saying that it's very difficult for that to be a thing. So I can understand people's need to assign this sort of superpower, but I sort of feel like in a way it's sort of a bit of a crux, if we're being honest here, that it's sort of a crutch in a way that I would argue. And I know that's not what a lot of researchers, you know, they're very adamant, and I understand a lot of people have had their face-to-face experiences, which I acknowledge strange stuff happens all the time. You and me have been swapping stories of strangeness happening. So I don't, I'm not going to dismiss that, mysterious stuff doesn't happen. But as far as pinpointing it to this specific phenomenon, I find over the years that at this time we should have come across something. And it's very difficult for me to really to deal with that. I don't know. What is your impression?
Well, I mean, my experience is we have come across a lot of stuff, and we do. There have been bodies. Okay, there have been bodies. There's lots of videos. There's pictures. I've had encounters myself. I'm a Bigfoot field researcher. I know people who have shot Bigfoot. Okay, and these stories go way back. Even in the 1920s, we had the attack at Ape Canyon. We also had the Albert Ostman incident where he was kidnapped by a Sasquatch.
Oh, yes, I remember that one.
They would, they put their reputations on the line and really were ridiculed until the day they died. Every one of them over all of this, and so there's a lot of evidence that gets suppressed, I guess, and a lot of people who have the evidence don't come forward because they get made fun of. And I guess, and
I have
you
heard
don't want to be that person who shot a Bigfoot. You know what I mean?
I've heard of, I think it was on Timothy Renner's show, where he gets accounts of the Bigfoot Men in Black, where it's the Men in Black, but they're the Bigfoot division, and it's a short, squat little man with glasses on and a big burly, redheaded giant of a man with the overalls and the plaid shirt, that these two guys are running around suppressing accounts and evidence, and I hear that. I understand that, but I don't know. As quick and as nimble as those individuals would be, I don't know that their net, no matter how extensive it is, could catch everything. So I do have to wonder about that. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a thorn in my side, and I understand for like a lot of people, it's there. They have a workaround for it, but as far as I go, the workaround, it just doesn't leave me satisfied. So I sort of, I kind of want more, and I'm sort of speculating more on that.
Well, see, the way you're going to get more, and you're going to learn more, you're going to see more, you're going to hear more, is by watching podcasts like mine. Okay. And a lot of people that are in the chat today, we've got Hunting the Shadows is in here. We've got Brown Dwarf in here. We've got the Bizarre and the Unknown. We got Eric in here. I just saw him. I mean, there's several people. I'm sure there's a lot more. There's Cryptidville. Cryptidville is a big one too. Okay. A lot of these people that are in my chat, good friends of mine, they're out there doing the boots on the ground field research. They have Bigfoots that live on their properties. They have families. I know Eric from the Bizarre and the Unknown over here. Eric would just put out a live show today where he was collecting evidence on his own property out in Missouri, where he has a family of Bigfoots living on his property. Okay, because just like Amy said, don't wait for the government to tell you what's real and what's out there, because we're never going to get it. Even if they paraded a Bigfoot out on a stage and it was like government sanctioned, I don't think we'd believe it. Okay, I don't know if we believe it with all, because we don't trust. I don't trust anymore. Okay, in a lot of ways. Yeah. This is for entertainment purposes only. Okay, but it's watching listening to the boots on the ground field researchers like myself and other people, and just watching podcasts and stuff, I guess.
Yeah, I guess I kind of get that, and I guess I'm being somewhat of a curmudgeon about it, but again, it's mostly from just, exhaustion on what it is that we have to deal with on a daily basis when it comes to any type of topic. And I guess just with Bigfoot, that's just a rather popular thing because Bigfoot is the big man on campus. I probably feel I probably don't feel the same way about Dogman, given the nature how it's approached a little bit differently, but it is somewhat in the same vein as sort of like how the Sasquatch encounters are, and there is a lot of crossover. But it's just a fun thing to come back and forth, and it's just one of those things that I don't know. It just kind of rubs me the wrong way. But as far as people going out there doing the research and having at it, I say, yeah, I mean, definitely go for it. I'm not going to tell anyone not to do anything, or if anyone has an encounter, I would never say that it didn't happen. I'm not questioning them or their authenticity. I'm just suspect of the Bigfoot entity itself. That is where my point of conjecture is that I believe whatever that is it's very disingenuous to begin with, and I think that maybe we're dealing with something bigger, or bigger, like in a bigger scope of what we think it is. It's not that I don't trust the witnesses. I don't trust Bigfoot. He's what I'm suspect of, and if Bigfoot has a problem with that, he's welcome to tell me off.
I'm gonna send them all to your house. Okay, how about that? I'm just gonna say, y'all take that up with Chris. Yes, I'll give him your address if you send it to me, if you want me to. I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, well, some people think that they can be shapeshifters, and and be interdimensional and things like that. And I think a lot of these cryptids are shapeshifters and can be. Dennis Carroll's in the chat. He and I talk about that a lot, about shapeshifters. We just talked about vampires this past week and had a great discussion on vampires and immortal souls, immortal beings, just like Saint Germain, New Orleans' most infamous vampire. We just talked about that. And Nicolas Cage. Okay.
I love the mythos of the vampire. What is it that I think it's today's zombie was yesterday's vampire? How vampires used to be these gangly type of creatures, and then through the course of the centuries, they've been molded into these amorous type of seductive entities, and I find that interesting. It's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, it's very cool. Yeah, I mean the jury's still out on exactly what Bigfoot is. Okay, but I do know they're flesh and bone. They have blood. They're real beings. Okay, they're real beings. They do exist. And yes, some of them may shapeshift. I think some of them are very smart. Some of them are just looking for food. Okay, they're hungry. They're just like me. I'm always looking for food.
Yeah. The thing is that. I mean, if they're really out there beatboxing, it kind of sucks that we only catch the ass end of the beatbox. We don't get to hear the whole thing, because that would be some really, really randy tunes. And I got to mark off on my notepad, made fun of Jessica. Okay.
I know, right? You got that. I knew I was going to get a tall joke. I knew it. I am much taller in person, y'all. Watch out. Okay.
oh, by the way, the casinos have you gotten the bill yet for them repairing all their door frames when you smack your forehead into them?
No, not yet. Not yet. Oh my gosh. I'll get you back, Chris. I'll get you back. You're hilarious. You're hilarious. Well, let's kind of wrap it up a little bit tonight. I was going to ask you, what is you're a big fan of Art Bell. What were some of your favorite episodes of Art Bell before we go tonight?
All right.
You have a favorite?
I was intrigued by the Mel's Hole thing. That kept me on to I was there. I would sometimes, there was a time where I had a work schedule that favored me listening to Art Bell late at night, and the Mel's Hole saga was fantastic. They would replay it every now and then and talk about it and so much. And I got so intrigued with it that this was when I was in college, and I was like, maybe 24 or 25 or whatever that I was a young man, and I did a drawing, it's very crude, but I did the best drawing that I could of the Mel's Hole tumor seal. And let me see if I can bring it up.
Oh, please. I hope you have it. This is my favorite. I did a remote viewing target of that, of the tumor seal and of Mel's Hole. And my friend Tanya did it with me, and Barry gave us those targets, and it was fascinating.
Yeah, this was way back when my digital stuff was in its infancy, and that's how I best understood the tumor seal, as well as this new. I guess this would have been the second Mel's Hole, which had a interlocking ring for a cover, which the people at the time, that I don't think they had the cover for it, but there was very clearly, it had a device on it to interlock with it to keep it covered, and it would shoot dark energy at night. And what the story was is that they threw a live
Sheep. There's a
sheep down there to see what would happen, see what the effects would be. And then when they pulled it back up, it appeared to have been dead, and then they were going to autopsy it, and then they found something moving under the skin. And then once they peeled away the flesh, there appeared to be a tumor that was sentient, that was moving around, and it resembled mostly a seal, but it had these sort of piercing, almost more human than human emoting eyes that pierced through the all the participants there, and they sort of felt this sort of this overwhelming spiritual I guess spiritual something or rather just emanating from it, and it was rather a fantastic moving experience for them. And then eventually it slopped around and went back to the hole, and then just it waved its arm and said bye-bye, and everybody's all waving bye-bye, and then he just slumped back into the hole and was never found again. And it's I don't know what to, again, like everything else with so much in the paranormal, I'd hate to say I don't know if that was a true story. There's been like a lot of back and forth, and a lot of people are coming up with whether or not it could or it couldn't, and it's just it's intriguing, but I don't know what to ultimately make of it. It's a great story, and I had sent this off to the show for them to put on their webpage. But at the time they were transitioning from Art Bell, he was passing the torch to George Norrie. So this sort of fell between the cracks. However, I think it was Cryptid Wiki. They picked it up because that's where I found it. And this drawing I did like decades ago, and it was lost to time. And thankfully to the internet, there it is. Yeah, I mean, it's a fun, good story. And I guess it was in my way as a way for me to interpret it. I probably should redo it, like with the skills that I have now, the experience that I have now, and take another whack at it, just to do it. But it's those old timey Art Bell type of stories that, we would stay up listening to. I remember as a youth, I had my computer, and it was hooked up to what passed for the internet at that time, which was AOL discs and stuff of that nature, where you had to do it by the hour, and you had to go into your phone line, and you had to have like an app or something. So that way, when people call the line, it goes to like an answering machine and stuff like that. So that way you don't, when to get off, but and it's that sort of archaic internet stuff, and it's that sort of where this stuff lived and came from, and it was I don't know, it felt great to be a part of that in a way, that even back then, because this image, I mean, it's a very crude image, but this is like almost, I'd say I would say 20 years old, of an old digital 20-year-old drawing that I did. And it's something to see it, still be a part of and associated with. And that, for me, that's really heartwarming in a way. And I'm sort of glad to see that. And I'm thank you for bringing that up, because that really, it spoke to me.
Oh yeah, Chris, this is the number one Art Bell show that I actually, this is one of the highest watched remote viewing shows that I have on my channel, is the Mel's Hole remote viewing target that I was given. And I gotta say, when Tanya and I both were given these targets, and Tanya connected with that seal more than I did, and she stayed in communication with that tumor seal for some time psychically. And I can say that I do believe this was all real. I think Mel's hole is real. I think this tumor still was real, because both of us remote viewed it separately. And it's a fascinating story. For people who aren't familiar with Mel's hole, Mel called in to Art Bell, said that he had a big hole in his yard in some property that he owned up in Washington, I think. And the people were throwing appliances down it, and it had no bottom to it. And he said that he had dropped 15 miles worth of fishing line through down into this hole, and it had never hit the bottom. And and we were given this remote viewing target. Apparently, the government swooped in after he went on Art Bell. The government swooped in and seized his land. Okay, and even when you try to find it on a map, it's blurred out. Anywhere that could potentially be Mel's hole is blurred on Google Maps. But we remote viewed it. I believe I was coming up with wormhole. We both picked up on it being a wormhole, having to do with space and time, interdimensional stuff, time travel, and I was even picking up on data that had to do with the German scientist and time travel. Okay, so go figure.
I remember one of the stories where he had a dog that had passed, and he threw the dog down the hole, and then, like on plots of his land, he would actually see his dog, like running around, and it was always, out of the, just out of view, just out of range for him to pursue it. But it's sort of that lends to that sort of ethereal otherworldliness of it that is, intriguing.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so Mel actually left that when he made a deal with the government to go live in Australia, and to go start a wombat farm. But they were going to pay for him for the rest of his life, he said, to live there as long as he didn't talk about the hole and never came back to the United States. And then he ended up coming back to the U.S. and he got beaten up and he lost all his money.
They took his teeth or something. Yeah.
Knocked his teeth out and all that stuff. So yeah, but he had a second hole. The second one was in Arizona or New Mexico. Another hole just like the first hole that he had found.
Yeah, and it's funny how that 1 in a million chance just fell right into his lap. But the thing is how they say that once you experience like something weird, then all of a sudden all the other weird stuff you start becoming aware of it too. And they liken it to like when you buy a new car, then all of a sudden you start noticing that model of car everywhere. Like maybe it's just like this extra level of awareness is suddenly bumped up a notch for some people. And I kind of think something like that is how it works. I don't know. That's what I believe.
Oh yeah. Once you start examining something, like when you start studying something, it starts studying you back. Okay, it does. And that includes the things that came out of Mel's hole, I guess. And it was really funny saying that we had remote viewed Mel's hole. It just sounded weird. Okay, it sounded weird. It did, but yeah, I actually was just on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie about a month ago, I guess, a month or two ago. I was his guest one night, and that was a wonderful experience, and one that I'll never forget. And we actually ended up talking about Mel's hole briefly while I was on there with George. So we talked about some of the targets that I had done remote viewing wise, and Mel's hole did come up. Getting to talk to George Norrie about it, so it was quite a treat. And
George Norrie, he's not the same as Art Bell, but he's got sort of his own thing going on, and it's sort of I think he's done like an all right job, carrying the torch.
He's done a good job. He's done a great job. But
hang on before.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Before we go, one person had requested a specific alien being, and I just happen to have it in the backlog, so let me pop that up. Someone wanted to see a click clack, so it's like, okay, here's a click clack. One of the click clacks that I had done for Archithantrus's book.
That's fascinating. I actually had a bug. Okay, this is blowing my mind right now. Because I had a bug that looked like a grasshopper, but it wasn't a grasshopper. It looked exactly like this. crawling on my arm yesterday. I took a series of pictures of it. I'm going to send you some pictures after the show today, and I'll probably post them on my social media if y'all want to see them. It had a bug. It didn't have a coat on. It didn't have clothes on, but it looked like that in the back, and even the back of it. I thought that maybe it had been cut, like something had happened. It was deformed. It looked just like that, and I was actually like slightly connecting with this bug at my farm yesterday. It was so weird. So that's pretty cool. I get the click clack. I like that.
Yeah. And it's I think this is just like a bunch of fun stuff. And the thing is, I know that, like, I think it was someone in the chat was saying about how, how could you be dismissive of Bigfoot, but totally like be in the boat with Archithandrus and all this stuff. And it's not, I'm not really my position is that I listen to everybody's accounts. I mean, there's this weird sort of like thing where we throw this sort of currency to believability. Like if I'm able to convince you that my story is true, that makes it more true. Like there's a point system, where either it happened or it didn't, and you can either prove it or you can't. And that's just the way that it is. With Archithandrus, my relationship with him is that he's very open about what he can and can't prove. He knows that he can't quite prove like a majority of these accounts. And I'm not asking him to prove anything to me. He's hiring me to do a job, and I'm doing a job. I'm intrigued by his adventures. I'm intrigued by these creatures, ultimately. I'm a fan of aliens and stuff like this. I'm a fan of especially these one-offs and stuff of that. I love these things. I love messing with these creatures. I love experimenting with them, drawing with them. And with the unique relationship with Archithandrus was that he is a first-hand experiencer, and he's detailing me the details of these entities firsthand. I'm not getting them through a researcher. I'm not getting them through an author. I'm not getting them secondhand through someone else. I'm getting, all the rich details from the source, so to speak. And he knows that he can't, like I said, prove these to me, and I'm not asking for evidence of them. I'm doing my job. But the thing is that, I'm not really asking for evidence of for him to prove it either. I just need to know the details so that I can best illustrate them. The thing about, whether or not I believe people or not, I'm very skeptical of stuff, but I understand that a lot of this, like I said earlier, spooky stuff happens to all of us, and we can't ultimately prove it. And an inability to prove it doesn't mean it's not real. I understand the experience is real to people. My experience was real to me. Could I write it off as just generic sleep paralysis? I very well could. But, I felt that there was a profoundness to this experience, and I sort of take that with me. The thing is with everybody else is like there's a lot of animosity within the community about how believable a person's story is, and are they telling the truth or are they lying? And the thing is that so much of these people, there seems to be this pipeline from experiencer to guru. And when you reach to a level of gurudom, to where you start like expressing like, oh, I can cure your cancer or whatever it is, just give me $400 of whatever so I can, do my thing or whatever. And it's not something that they can immediately prove that is beneficial, that some people regard as a grift or not. I can understand the criticism there. And I too am critical of such, mischievous individuals within the community as well. The thing is that a lot of this stuff is so wrapped up in mystery, and And, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to dismiss a person's story or an account. I still want to hear it out. I still feel that people's accounts and stuff are valuable, even for archival purposes. Like, I don't believe Valiant Thor is real. I believe he's a fabrication, but I believe that there is something to people encountering him on crafts and stuff like this. So it's not so much that maybe whatever this interloper is, this extra whatever it is, stuff that we encounter, maybe it does have internet access, and it looks up Valiant Thor and says, well, this person expects to see Valiant Thor, so I'm going to wrap myself in Valiant Thor wrapping and present myself to them, because that way I could get whatever I need out of them. And it's not so much me being suspect of the person having their encounter, it's me being suspect of the phenomenon itself. And I hope that I could clear that up, because I know like some people are, trying to get up on me about that.
Hey, listen, nobody in my crew over here is going to get all over you for that, okay? Because we're very open to experiences, and I just, the one thing I require of people that I go out in the field with is everybody's got to have an open mind about stuff, and so we're non-judgmental, okay, for the most part over here, okay? So we don't have to worry about that at all, and everybody has very unique experiences, and I've actually been, people have asked if I would put Valiant Thor in the pool of remote viewing targets that I would do. And I have not been tasked that target yet. So I don't know. I believe, I don't know about Valiant Thor. I don't know. We'll have to see. I don't know a whole lot about him.
Yeah, there's a lot of back and forth. And I do feel like we need to have those debates. But I can understand people having an emotional attachment because they've had firsthand experiences. And that's how they understand something. And again, it's like there's just so much going on at once. Everything's going in so many directions at once. It's just a lot going on, I mean, and another thing is convincing me that whatever it is that you've done is real or stuff like that. You don't get anything from that. You don't win anything from that. Me believing your story doesn't make it true. That just means you've been able to make a good argument with me or convince me somehow, but that doesn't make your experience true if it's not. It's just the thing is that with I don't know, and I guess we got to kind of understand, because sometimes the skeptics, I get that there's a lot of animosity with certain skeptics, that they get they get really hung up on having this pseudo authority over the rest of the community, because they ultimately have the no hammer. They could just say no.
That happens a lot in the UFO community, I've noticed. Like in the cryptid community, maybe. I just don't see it very much in the cryptid community, but the UFO community, yes. So luckily we lean more towards the cryptid community, I guess. I'm not much of a UFO guy either. I'm more interested in what's in the craft rather than it flying around, we could go down so many rabbit holes and stuff, and I don't think we've been able to have a chance to go to the giants yet, but it's maybe a lot of, I was going to say, a lot of those craft actually are living beings from what I understand too. So they're actually living craft. Yeah. I wanted to take a second to thank Vic Kumar. Thank you so much for that super sticker, who says, a year almost exclusively in summer, and there's a blue light that visits me at this time. Very cool. Yeah, it sounds like an orb or something. So that's really cool. Thank you so much for your support. We appreciate that. Yeah, well, we could touch on giants real quickly before we go tonight if you want. We mentioned the giant in Kandahar.
Yeah, then we'll just wrap it up with a little bow, and because
let's do it.
I know that you and me had like a plan, and I think we're ready to wrap stuff up. We're ready to wrap stuff up, but first,
we have a plan. I know, right? we have a loose plan. I always have a loose plan, y'all. Everybody should have a loose plan in life too.
Yeah. Hang on, wait. Before that, I got to make sure you're not Nephilim. Hey, Jessica, could you open your mouth? Let me count the rows of your teeth.
I only have 10 fingers.
1, 2, 3, 4,
okay.
Okay, yeah.
I'm actually not.
I gotta make sure you're not Nephilim.
Chris, so there's a lot of people, I've seen it in the chat like over and over again. How tall are you, Jessica? I'm not that tall, y'all. I'm just usually taller than the other people in the room, okay? I'm like 5'8". Okay, it's not that tall, but I do wear heels, okay, and that makes me tall. So
Let us have our fun, Jessica. Let us have our fun.
Right. I'm not a
let us have
Nephilim, though. No.
let us have our fun, Jessica. Come on,
Okay.
don't spoil it for us. Okay,
I'm not
so
that tall. I'm just taller than a lot of people, but I'm not that tall. Okay. So, but yeah. Well, let's touch on the giants real quick before we go tonight.
okay. Before we all know like there's the popular giant of Kandahar. That's totally cool. But you know how there's this sort of like revelation of the method of where people like throw in this, like we'll see like a movie of something, and right now they're making a movie about the faking the moon landing. And I think that's just to shut up, some would say to shut up criticism of people who doubt the moon landing, for some whatever reason. And there's always this need of Hollywood, what they call soft disclosure. We'll just release a movie of a thing, and then when popular paranormal whatever it is touches on it, then we could just say, oh, that's just a movie, and I get that. But as far as revelation of the method and stuff of this nature, one of the earliest things that I remember pertaining to giants was this cartoon show as a child that I had seen that was called Robotech. And Robotech was about where this flying fortress crashed into Earth. It like wiped out a bunch of people, and then they rebuilt it up, and we're going to go spacefaring. And right when they were about to launch it, they get attacked by aliens, and then the aliens are in these pods and stuff like this. And then the UN had these fighters called veritable fighters within. They would transform into giant humanoids. And then when one of the pods on the enemy pods opened up, inside was a giant humanoid. So it's like as if these jets were fashioned specifically to fight giants. And I find that so cute that we talk about the Nephilim and all this and of these giant creatures and stuff, whereas in the TV show they were called the Zentradi, and it's just, I just find that so intriguing that there's this media out there of spacefaring battles with gigantic humanoids in the zeitgeist, so to speak. And some people, they know what I'm talking about. They're like, yeah, that was my favorite show. And the Macross saga in particular of that show is where like a lot of that comes. And I guess because of licensing rights, we don't get it in the US, but you could still find it, bits and places. But the underlying score of the show was that the universe was pretty much held together somewhat by music, and there was like a lot of romantic interloping and all that stuff. But I just wanted to bring that up, of this sort of giants placed in our popular culture.
Oh man, yeah, they're in all the movies too, like Game of Thrones, and I mean, like the shows you watched growing up as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
They're all over the place. But see, people are even getting videos of real life giants too on mountainsides, and then some of those people are going missing after they publish those videos on social media.
I've heard about that. I don't know what to make of that. I'm somewhat kind of iffy about that, but I get the account of that. I totally think that's totally cool. But as far as that, some people suspect it could have been an optical illusion, which I'm totally open to. But again, like a sort of thing is like, I want to see more. And then there was that movie that came out, I think it was Norwegian, Troll Hunter. Oh, that was
Troll. I think it was just called Troll.
Yeah.
I think.
They have been Troll. But the Norwegian version was called Troll Hunter. And in that one, it was just so good about how this sort of like I think it was the Norwegian government or had this sort of this guy, this frumpy looking guy, and his job was to hunt trolls, because in the premise of that story, what had happened was that this troll had contracted rabies and was actually attacking people. And it was his job to chase it down and to take it out. But of course, that he had discovered is that because these trolls, intermingle, that there was going to be like a rabies epidemic. So then he had to take out several trolls to do that. And And in that, you learn about all these different kinds of trolls and stuff of that nature. And it's a very fun movie. I recommend watching it in the original language if you can, because the way the affect is just the way he comes out and he screams troll and then he runs off, and it is just such a fun little movie. I love it.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of people in the chat that have seen it, and they say you can find it on Tubi. Okay, Cosmic Joe
Cool.
Chronicles says Tubi, and yeah, a lot of people have seen it. I've not seen Troll Hunter. Okay, I'm gonna go check that one out though, especially if it's on Tubi.
It's a lot of
well, when it comes to these giants, I mean, gosh, like I said, I talk about giants a lot. I just did a show on Cyclops recently, and it's a different, like an ancient race of giants. There's different races of giants. I mean, if you go back not too far, a couple hundred years ago, we got the Tartarian Empire that had giant humans. I mean, that might have been just like 100 years ago, actually.
Yeah, there was like a lot of speculation that a lot of the buildings, the grand buildings, was made specifically to house, specific 12 to 15 foot tall giants specifically, and that we just, found all that stuff and then repurposed it for ourselves. And any kind of, stuff, we just write it off to, whoa, there were just grandiose builders, and some people tend to speculate that very well could have been, to let something of that size into the premise.
Oh yeah, big doors and books and swords are being unearthed, and a lot of this stuff has been hidden from us. Okay, and all the giant skeletons that are hiding underneath the, what is it, the Smithsonian, allegedly.
Yeah.
Actually, I've had somebody on my show, Dr. Wu came on my show, who works as a curator at the Smithsonian. He was in charge of handling some of those bones of the giants, and I had him on my show. He said they're 100% down there. Okay, they do have a bunch of giant skeletons and stuff. Yeah. So
it seems to be that the Smithsonian tends to be the popular candidate for any kind of suppression of this. And at this point, we talk about it so much that we could just knock on the door and just demand it, and they'll say, "Oh, we don't know." They'll of course have some plausible deniability to that. And I think is that what a lot of, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if the powers that be or whatever, happen to allow the Smithsonian to continue to be the scapegoat of that. But as far as, history as we know it, I mean, even today we can see, and I'm not trying to get too political here, but we can clearly see history being purposefully people are trying to rewrite it to a more favorable narrative that allows them to stay in power, whoever them are. And I have to question that, looking back on that, of the history as we know now about the ancient history, should we question that stuff as well? I mean, because look at the Mandela effects. In my personal opinion, I don't believe Mandela effects are the result of CERN. I think it's the result of historical tampering by Google and stuff like that to sort of throw us off our game. The things is that and when it comes to stuff like some of the hard ones where it's instead of lion and the lamb, it's the wolf and the lamb in the Bible and stuff like this. There could have been stuff that we just simply overlooked, and popular culture then picked it up and ran with it. But as far as with all that stuff that's going on, we definitely need to pay more closer attention and question our history, because it's just some stuff just doesn't line up as far as I think it should. And a lot of people are asking questions, and of course when you ask those questions you get your sight knocked off and stuff like that. So I think there's definitely more there.
Yeah, well, this is all for entertainment purposes only tonight, everything we talk about, for sure. And there is a lot covered up, and we're slowly getting the trickle effect of unveiling the mysteries, I guess. It's almost like the veil is gotten thinner, or there's no veil now, and I don't know if we're just being shown things, or I don't know. People like ourselves are coming out and talking about our own experiences, and yes, the Smithsonian, That's a gatekeeper. That's what we would consider to be a gatekeeper. And I've seen that comment a couple of times in the chat. The chat is off the chain tonight. Thank you guys so much for all the comments. It's y'all keep it interesting. Everybody does. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just glad that we were able to talk about it. Even if we have to say it's for entertainment purposes only, at least we're here talking about it. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, and thank you again for letting me on your show to espouse all this stuff. I'm glad that we were able to, go on for like a little bit longer and get deeper into the topics that we hadn't before when it was just us.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, this is fun. I always have a great time. I know I'm gonna have you on my Space Out Radio show, and I thought, man, we've got more to talk about than just an hour. Okay, because we have less than an hour to squeeze everything in. So yeah, it's always a great time, and you are a fantastic artist, and you have a really great podcast. Why don't you tell the audience where they can find you, Chris? And I hope you'll come back and hang out with me again in the future. Yeah,
you can find me at Conspire Theory, and you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Conspire Theory, all one word. I'm pretty much on all the podcatchers. You can find them anywhere, and if not, you can find it on either Spotify, and then use that to get to the RSS feed and plug it into your specific podcatcher of choice. But just definitely keep a lookout up there. It's very easy to find. Just Google it, and then it'll pop up, and you can get it, or you can get a link from a friend. I'm trying to traverse and get more video shows on my YouTube channel. I only have like maybe 3 episodes up there right now, but I am trying to transition more to YouTube, and there's a lot. I mean, I have an archive. If you go to the audio archive, you can find a lot of fascinating people that I've talked to, a lot of great episodes that we've all talked to. Some of them have content warning because it's just more salacious humor, that more the darker, edgy humor type of stuff that I think people who are more sensitive may not be up to. But there's a lot of stuff that's just pure entertainment stuff as well. I talk to a lot of artists and writers because my background is in comic books. I came from a comic book world, so I'm into superheroes and stuff like this. So the cryptids and the stuff like these are sort of interesting to me because I view them through the lens of that sort of superhero type of thing, and that's what always kept me interested in it. And with that, there's this new crop of podcasters that are coming up, and they're just reinvigorating my interest in talking to these subjects and talking to these people like yourselves, like Cryptid Warfare, like Let's Get Freaky, like Shay Jones from Inquiries of Our Reality, which if you look at Inquiries of Our Reality, he had asked me to commission me to redo his show, his album art for his show. So you'll see my artwork on his show, and he's like sells the t-shirt of it all, that stuff. That's really cool. And it's just, I'm trying to get everywhere that I can, reach out to as many people as I can, and as well as get my own show going and talk to the people those who were willing to talk to me. So again, thank you so much for letting me come up on here. And this was a lot of fun. I love talking to you so much.
Oh, thank you. No, I had a blast. I know I apologize. My audio was a little crackly. It was click-clacking today. Okay. And I had, something with my son when he like turned on our Spotify. It went into my phone, and it just was a mess, y'all. So I'm sorry. We had a little technical glitch in the beginning, and it set off whatever reason my audio has been glitched out ever since. So I'm going to get that fixed. It'll be fine in the future. So I apologize for the clickety clackety glitchy audio tonight. But other than that, I've had a blast. This has been a great time, Chris. Thank you so much. I also want to give a huge shout out to Long Island Bigfoot. Okay, we club in the Hunt Club. That is, thank you for being a member of the Hunt Club for 5 months. This is your anniversary, Mike. So thank you so much for that. And Maureen, thank you, Maureen, the girl in her gong. They have been members of the Hunt Club. That's the members only. I guess it's just the members only thing here on YouTube. It's like my membership on YouTube. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say it. But thank you. Join Hunt Club. It's awesome. Thank you, Marian. That means the world to me that you guys have been here that long. Y'all are the OGs of the Hunt Club. So thank y'all so much. And Chris, I want to thank you again for being here. Like I said, this has been a hoot. And so everybody, y'all go check out Conspire a Theory podcast, wherever you get your podcasting platforms. Okay. And yeah. So thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
You rock. You rock. Okay. And you guys, please come back and see me tomorrow night. I'll be at Space Out Radio tomorrow night. All right. So y'all come see me over there at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. All chats, everybody who's in the chat tonight, y'all are the best. Absolutely. And all my moderators, thank you. All my Patreon members, thank you. And all my channel members, thank you all so much. And thank you guys for the super chats, super stickers, and just for being here. All right, Chris. Well, listen, we'll see you next time. Come back and see you soon. All right. All right, everybody. Have a great night, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye, Chris.